welcome back. So before the lunch break, then we just went through the two methods of generating bodhicitta. And so as I was mentioning the other day, so even though one has generated the mind of bodhicitta, there is a risk when one encounters unruly living beings, that then one would choose to abandon their bodhicitta. Okay, so the next several stanzas belong to the class of teachings of Namjong, or mind training, and here it is about bringing normally what we would consider to be discordant factors or kind of obstacles to bring it into the path. Okay, bringing obstacles into the path, bringing suffering into the path. Okay? All right. So, stanza 12. Even if someone out of strong desire steals all your wealth or has it stolen, dedicate to him your body, possessions, and your virtue, past, present, and future. This is the practice of bodhisattvas. Okay. So, as you will remember, in the Tonglen meditation, the equalizing and exchanging self for others, we have already visualized ourselves giving away our body, our possessions, and our merits or virtue created in the past, the present, and the future. We've given that away to sentient beings, right? So one general way of thinking when we encounter these difficult situations is to think that, oh great, my Tonglen meditation is working. You understand? So I remember there's one great master, one of his, actually the Dalai Lama's gurus. Then he was robbed, but I think someone broke into his room or house, and then they took all his stuff. And then he thought, oh, it's so great, because when someone takes something from us, then it's like they wanted something that we possess, right? So then the fact that they have it then could make us happy. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. 13.
Number 13, for the people who just arrived.
Okay. Even if someone tries to cut off your head when you haven't done the slightest thing wrong, out of compassion take all his misdeeds upon yourself. This is the practice of bodhisattvas. So again, out of compassion, taking his misdeeds upon yourself. See, again, we have to concentrate on the fact that sentient beings, or people, when they harm others, it's because they themselves are under the influence, under the control of their own disturbing emotions. So Shantideva says in the Bodhisattva Charyavatara that when people are very disturbed in their minds, they will hurt themselves, right, up to the point of committing suicide. So if that's the case, then of course they would harm others as well, right? So then to again put the blame on the correct root cause which is the afflictive emotions of the person that's harming us, then compassion can arise for them. Right. Okay, 14. Even if someone broadcasts all kinds of unpleasant remarks about you throughout the 3,000 worlds, in return, with a loving mind, speak of his good qualities. This is the practice of bodhisattvas. So again, these are certain ways that we would be harmed, right? Each of these stanzas refers to a way that we would be harmed, and instead of wanting to have the mind that retaliates harm with harm, we instead generate, compassion, and therefore are able to, tolerate. So in general, there are different ways to think about these. But you see, when we talk about the practice of patience, or zupa in Tibetan, then again in Shantideva's Bodhisattva Charyavatara, it mentions various ways with which we practice patience. And so we can focus either on the object of the would-be anger, or the subject. And we had already mentioned, in relation to the object, then to separate the real thing that is causing the harm, means the afflictive emotions, with rather than it being that person, right? And then to also consider that, there's a kind of there's a contemplation whether to consider the afflictive emotions in that person to be inherent to that person, or just a temporary situation, right? So then Shantideva has us inquire if it is a intrinsic or inherent to that person that they are, misbehaving, then it would be like getting angry at fire for being hot and burning, right? On the other hand, if it's just a temporary state, then it would be like getting angry at the sky for having clouds in it, right? Yeah. Then the other strategy that we use in to practice patience is to consider karma, right? And so, as we spoke before, everything that we experience in life is the ripening effect of actions that we ourselves have accumulated, performed. So, one, the harm that we're now experiencing, if it's so unbearable, right, and we don't want to experience it, then we must abandon the cause for being harmed, which is our own negative actions. So now there's a situation where we've been harmed. If we now retaliate to the other person, that's just going to create the cause of our own future suffering, right? So therefore, in this way, to think, okay, I don't want to experience this type of suffering again in the future. Therefore, that's even more reason not then to retaliate in this situation. And then, one other contemplation, I'm a little bit forgetting the whole outlines, but the other thing that Shantideva mentions, since we have generated even a little bit of bodhicitta, the wish that others be free from their suffering and abide in the perfect state of happiness, that of enlightenment forever, right? Then it'd be very contrary to our own aspiration to then harm beings. Yeah. This is from this book. So, anyway. Right? And then here, in this case, you see, if someone broadcasts all kinds of unpleasant remarks about you throughout the 3,000 worlds, in return with a loving mind, speak of his good qualities. This is the practice of bodhisattvas, right? So here, I think Shantideva mentions, right, if we want all living beings to become Buddhas, after which they will be praised by all living beings, right, then why not start now, right? And especially in this case where someone has criticized us, you see, actually, criticism can be very beneficial for us. Because we want to become perfect beings, right? We want to become Buddhas. So, in general, it's very difficult to see our own faults, and it's relatively easier to see and point out the faults of others, right? So then when someone does criticize us, then that gives us an opportunity to to check, is what they're saying true? Is it well-founded? You know, and if so, then it's great. They've pointed out something that we can work on and improve, right? So, you know, just like some professional athletes, right? I don't know, a golfer or whatever, you know, they use a golfer will have, you know, their coach take a video of their swing and then, you know, frame by frame to see, oh, here, you see your weight is too much on your left foot, or, you know, and point out these faults, these mistakes. And, you know, the professional golfer will pay a lot of money to have these faults pointed out, right? Because they want to get the best golf swing. So similarly, when we want to be, you know, perfect in knowledge, perfect in conduct, so then when people point out our own faults, wow, amazing. Amazing opportunity to check. And if there is some even little bit of truth in their criticism, then very precious, very precious. But even if it's totally unfounded, then it's another kind of preciousness. Because that sense of self-grasping, self-cherishing that comes up, then that shows us we still have more to do on the path, right? And of course, especially this, when we get criticized, you know, it's like, why do we give so much power to the person criticizing us? You know, why does it matter so much what people think? You know? This we talked about a little bit in relation to the 8 worldly concerns, right? But you know, even the Buddha himself was accused by his cousin Devadatta and others that he was a complete fraud. Even the Dalai Lama is criticized by the Chinese government, for example, right? So so we, who don't have those levels of quality, not in the least, then of course we're going to be criticized, right? So, yeah, like that. Stanza 15. Though someone may deride and speak bad words about you in a public gathering, looking on him as a spiritual teacher, bowing to him with respect, this is the practice of Bodhisattvas. So this actually, I don't know, do you guys know there's another text called 8 Verses of Mind Training? Have you come across that? Anyway, there's a very similar thought in that text where it says, even if someone that you have benefited and in whom you have great hopes, gives you terrible harm, to view that person as your spiritual teacher, right? So here in the Indo-Tibetan tradition, the guru is the supreme, right? So, you see, in that verse from the 8 Verses of Mind Training, you see, someone that we have benefited then returns our benefit with harm, then to view that person as a spiritual teacher. Because, you see, although we might talk about a kind of unconditional love, right? Which is, by the way, what a bodhisattva would have to practice, right? Not just you have benefited me in the past and therefore I'm going to benefit you, But, you see, when someone we have benefited then harms us in return, and we have that thought like, after all I've done to you or for you, how could you do this to me? That thought, that shows that our love, our wish to benefit is not unconditional, right? We have expectations that those that we have benefited will in turn benefit us. So then, when these situations happen, see, ultimately, the spiritual friend or the guru is showing you, the faults of your own mind that then you have to work on, right? So then this person that you've benefited and in turn harms you and you freak out, then you view that person as the spiritual friend because they're showing you that you still have more ways to go. And in a similar way here, in a public gathering, if we get derided, means criticized, right? And speak bad words about us in a public gathering, then what happens, right? We might freak out. Then what does that show? That we still are not free from the 8 worldly concerns. We still have a strong clinging and attachment to our own reputation. But as we've seen, the reputation, all of these 8 worldly concerns at the time of death ultimately don't matter at all, right? So the fact that we would then, after someone criticizes us, get hurt, and then what happens? We then talk to our friends about it. We need to get consoled. We need to, I don't know, maybe get back at them. It's just a lot of wasted time that we could be spending in a way that would have more beneficial effects for ourselves and especially our future lives. Okay? Maybe it's just worth, this came to my mind right now. But, the easiest way not to be criticized is to not do anything, right? Do nothing, be nothing, then no one criticizes you, right?
Then they criticize you for not doing anything.
Well, no, but you'd stay totally out of the public eye, right? So it's only when you do something, right? You're putting yourself out there. You're putting yourself out on the line. That then people will criticize. But I think it was Colin Powell. Colin Powell. Anyway, he was the U.S. Secretary of State. He was a colonel in the Army. But he said, trying to get everyone to like you is a sign of mediocrity. So, with anything you do, since the beings of this world are so diverse in their interests, no one is always going to like everything that you do, right? And so, rather than giving them so much power to make you suffer through their criticism of us, sorry, I'm a little bit feverish. But I'm just remembering things. But I used to be a musician, yeah. And then there's this one article. It was saying like to find your 1,000 fans. To get 1,000 fans. So there's 7 billion people in the world, right? But to be a successful musician, you just need 1,000 fans, right? 1,000 fans that will then, buy your albums, whatever, watch your videos, go to your concerts, and like this. You understand? So, people have diverse, this is music, right? People have very diverse taste in music, right? So, you will find whatever kind of music you play, this is an analogy, yeah? There'll be some people who like that, right? But there'll also be some people that don't like it. But rather than, compromising your own artistic kind of, what's the word? Vision, and then trying to water down something where, you lose your own artistic voice because, these people don't like what I'm doing, then what's the point? You have to stay true to yourself and then find the people that will like and support what you're doing. Yeah? Huh. So I'm also going to say this. You know, the few times, I looked at YouTube videos, right? When you look in the comment section, it is some of the worst things that are said about people that I've ever seen, isn't it? So I think they've done studies on it. It's a lot more difficult to criticize someone to their face like this, but just at your computer typing out something you never see that person is very, very easy, right? So yeah. I think there's someone like one blogger that I read his stuff. I think he was very much criticized, and then he might have read this, but this person maybe even wrote a very long kind of critical piece on his own blog about this other person, and then he wrote back to that person, the critical person, and thanked him. I think he'd published a book, and he thanked him for his criticism, and then things are very good. Okay. Even 16. Even if a person for whom you've cared, like your own child, regards you as an enemy, cherish him specially like a mother does her child who is stricken by sickness. This is the practice of bodhisattvas. So yeah, very similar to that verse from the eight verses of mind training. But this analogy, right? Cherish him specially like a mother does her child who is stricken by sickness. Okay, is also similar to, the doctors in a mental hospital, right? If someone has some mental illness and then they go around, harming others, right? It's very easy. The doctors don't, get angry at that person for harming. They see it's a factor of, their illness. I guess here what the Buddha is saying is that on a very fundamental level, we're all mentally ill, right? All of these afflictive emotions, disturbing emotions, they're not in accord with reality, Every time we get angry, it's because we see some negative qualities that are established on the side of the object, right? Whereas on a very fundamental level, it's all just our projection, a projection of our mind. Okay, 17. If an equal or inferior person disparages you out of pride, place him as you would your spiritual teacher, with respect on the crown of your head. This is a practice of bodhisattvas. Yeah. Yeah, very similar to what we've been talking about. But here, you see, actually, I'm reminded of some okay, hold on. There's a text that you can download. I think it's called like Transforming a Suffering Life into Happiness, something like this.
Transforming our suffering life into
happiness. Okay. Anyway, yeah. So that is kind of compiled by Lama Zopa Rinpoche, and it forms another basis with which we can set our motivation for the day. And the main body of that text, he actually takes quotations or many stanzas from the Bodhisattva Charyavatara. So, I'm going to go through them. It is very much in accord with this. Okay? So, without any sense of loss, I shall give up my body and enjoyments as well as my virtues of the 3 times for the sake of benefiting all. Okay? So this, in that text, you would use that point to meditate on Tonglen, like we did before the lunch break, right? Giving up my body, enjoyments, and virtues over the 3 times for the sake of benefiting all. Yeah? By giving up all, sorrow is transcended, and my mind will reach the sorrowless state. It is best that I now give everything to all beings in the same way that I shall at death. Okay. So, this is interesting too, right? You see, the best thing to do with material possessions is giving them away, right? Because, well, as we thought about, at our time of death, then we don't take any of our possessions with us. And, if we offer charity, then what we're doing is we're creating the causes for, future material prosperity. Right? Okay. So, having given up this body for the pleasure of all living beings, by killing, abusing, and beating it, may they always do as they please. Right? So, do we take this literally? I'm not sure. But the point is, some of these reflections are ways that we then are able to avoid getting angry at sentient beings when they harm us. Right? So the thought is, really, if we kind of take to heart the meditation on Tonglen, and we literally have given up our body to sentient beings, then it's as if our body doesn't belong to us anymore, but it belongs to all sentient beings. And therefore, if they abuse, kill, beat it, then it's okay. It's theirs. No longer have this thought of my body. Okay? Although they play with my body and make it a source of jest and reproach, because I have given it up to them, what is the use of holding it dear? Yeah. Giving it to them, then if they, make fun, it's okay. No problem. Therefore, I shall let them do anything to it that does not cause them any harm, and when anyone encounters me, may it never be meaningless for them. Okay? So this actually is important. So, I shall let them do anything to it that does not cause them any harm. So, Ale. Yes. I have 3 doctors and 4 mothers. Okay. If in those who encounter me a faithful or angry thought arises, may that eternally become the source for fulfilling all their wishes. May all who say bad things to me or cause me any other harm, and those who mock and insult me, have the fortune to fully awaken. Amazing, huh? May I be a protector for those without one, a guide for all travelers on the way. May I be a bridge, a boat, and a ship for all those who wish to cross the water. May I be an island for those who seek one, and a lamp for those desiring light. May I be a bed for all who wish to rest, and a slave for all those who want a slave. May I be a wishing jewel, a magic vase, powerful mantras and great medicine. May I be a wish-fulfilling tree and a cow of plenty for the world. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, may I always support the lives of all the boundless creatures. And until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach unto the ends of space. Isn't that nice? So the point is, when we embody this thought of bodhicitta and cherishing others, and our own kind of self-concern is dissolved, then the things that we see as so important for ourselves now, having possessions, having a good reputation, being praised, and so forth, that then, also no longer becomes important. Okay. Stanza 18. No. Disparage means to criticize.
What do you mean with inferior person? Wait, number 17.
Well, it's like this, right? Like if someone better than us, like for example, I don't know, like Michael Jordan or someone, if he says, "Oh, you're such a bad basketball player," to me, I'd be like, "Okay," right? I can take that. But someone inferior, lower than us, they have absolutely no right to criticize me, right? I mean, this is how our normal mind thinks, right? So it's, if someone who's, even though they're lower than us, then it's criticizing us, the thought is like, what? Who are you to say that to me? So that's the point. Because, if someone is better than us and they point out our faults, we can say, okay, you're right. Right? But it's that when someone, even though they're worse than us, then they criticize us. It gives that extra, flavor to the self-grasping mind. Me, that mind. Okay. 18. Though you lack what you need and are constantly disparaged and are afflicted by dangerous sickness and spirits, without discouragement, take on the misdeeds and pain of all living beings. This is the practice of Bodhisattvas. Yeah. So, you see, when we experience suffering, then, one beneficial way to think is, as I mentioned, to think that it's good, my Tonglen practice is now working, right? I had prayed, I had, aspired that all the suffering of all sentient beings would ripen upon me, right? So then when we think, or when we experience something undesirable, we think, great, my Tonglen practice is working, right? So then, when we do experience suffering like this, we can even think that, due to my experiencing of this suffering, may the ocean of samsaric suffering be dried up. And then when we do experience happiness or something favorable, we can also think that may all living beings come to enjoy the great bliss of enlightenment. See? So in this way, everything that we experience, be it good or bad, there's actually a stanza from the Guru Puja by Jesun Chugi Gyaltsen. No, Penchen Losang Chugi Gyaltsen, that says, whatever I experience, be it good or bad, may I always use it as a condition to increase the two types of bodhicitta, and therefore only abide only in a joyful mind. Okay. The two types of bodhicitta, you guys know. So the first that we've been talking about thus far is the conventional bodhicitta, the wish to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. And the ultimate bodhicitta is, conjoined with the mind of conventional bodhicitta, the correct view, the wisdom that realizes the ultimate nature of phenomena. So everything we experience, be it good or bad, we can use it to increase those two types of bodhicitta. And then when we do that, we can remain solely in a very joyful and blissful mind. Okay. 19. Though you become famous and many bow to you, and you gain riches equal to Vaishravanas, see that worldly fortune is without essence and don't be conceited. This is the practice of bodhisattvas. So Vaishravana is a god of wealth. Okay. God of wealth means very rich. Okay. So that means even though you might become famous, many bow to you, and you become very rich and wealthy, right? See that is all without essence, and don't be conceited. Conceited, you guys know? To be, have pride. Because, pride is actually one of the main obstacles for us as we try to traverse the Bodhisattva path. Because Ah,
Proud or pride?
they're to be pride. Yeah. He is proud. He has a lot of pride. Yeah, it's they're related. Yeah. Okay? Conceited. Okay? Why? Because, this mind of pride is what then makes us think that, we're better than others, right? And then when we have that thought, then, it's kind of related to this thought. There's some, let's say, someone very rich, right? They think that the wealth that they enjoy is because they were smart, they worked hard, and then these who are less fortunate is because they're lazy, because they, they're not hardworking, and therefore, they don't deserve to, enjoy material comfort, whereas I do, because I'm smart and I work hard. Yeah? So anyway, yeah. See, worldly fortune is without essence. Essence means then, that there would be something, kind of permanent and tangible about it. But as they say, that all samsaric pleasures are without essence. Means that, they don't last. Actually, according to the Buddhist cosmology, we all have had a rebirth when we were born as a very rich and powerful God many times. Right? And now, where is all that? We don't have. When we passed away from that life, then we took none of that wealth with us. And so now here we're doing okay. Right? But we're not equal in riches to Vairashvana. Yeah? Okay. Stanza 20. While the enemy of your own anger is unsubdued, though you conquer external foes, they will only increase. Therefore, with the militia of love and compassion, subdue your own mind. This is the practice of bodhisattvas. So, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, the kind of sister center to this place in Bodh Gaya, where the Buddha was enlightened, it's called Root Institute. And they have a car, that Rinpoche goes in. And they made a bumper sticker. Bumper sticker. It says, no anger, no enemy. So, here, did we mention the stanza from Shantideva yesterday? Right, with the leather? Yeah? Oh, yes. So that's that's what this is also referring to, right? Maybe since some of you weren't here, right? Shantideva said, where could we find enough leather to cover the entire surface of the earth? But if I wear sandals, it serves the same purpose. Similarly, how could I ever subdue all the unruly sentient beings of the earth? But if I subdue my own mind, it serves the same purpose, right? So here, you see, as long as we have anger, then we'll have enemies, right? And we see in the world, right? When you conquer the external foes, it's a never-ending process, So therefore, rather than trying to spend your effort in conquering the external foes with a militia, militia, it's like an army. It's like an army of love and compassion. Subdue your own mind. This is the practice of Bodhisattvas. Okay? 21. Sensual pleasures are like salt water. The more you indulge, the more thirst increases. Abandon at once those things which breed clinging attachment. This is the practice of Bodhisattvas. Isn't it? It's never enough. It's never enough, sensual pleasures. So, we're now the part of the text that was explicitly about the mind training or Namjong, that finished, and now we're going on further practices, right? So as we were talking about sensual pleasures before, then it's never enough. It's never satisfactory. Although we have one experience, then we'll want another and another and another, which in and of themselves isn't that bad. But the problem with sense pleasures is they take so much time, that we could be using to attain the real happiness of liberation and enlightenment. You understand? Okay. Whatever appears is your own mind. Your mind from the start was free from fabricated extremes. Understanding this, do not take to mind inherent signs of subject and object. This is the practice of Bodhisattvas. So actually, it says in the commentary that, this stanza could be interpreted from the Chittamatra or mind-only school, mind-only philosophical school. You guys, are you familiar with the mind-only school? What's that?
A layer of consciousness.
Yes. Yeah. So the mind-only school actually is not the highest philosophical view. So, So rather than getting into all that, because it's not the right view actually. Yeah. Okay. Let's go for a couple more stanzas, and then I'll talk about ultimate nature. Okay. When you encounter attractive objects, though they seem beautiful, like a rainbow in summer, don't regard them as real and give up attachment. This is the practice of bodhisattvas. All forms of suffering are like a child's death in a dream. Holding illusory appearances to be true makes you wary. Therefore, when you meet with disagreeable circumstances, see them as illusory. This is the practice of bodhisattvas. Okay. We touched on this the other day when we were talking about the ultimate nature of reality, right? We talked about subjective reality versus objective reality. And we were trying to ascertain where things actually exist on that spectrum. So let's just jump. Let's just jump to the real view, okay? And not mess around with lower views. So let's take, for example, 3 lines like this, yeah? Now, when we see those 3 lines, we see A, right? Yes? We see A. A. The letter A. 3 lines like this, right? Right? Now, according to the highest philosophical view in Buddhism, called the Prasangika Majjhimika, or the consequentialist middle way school, right? They hold that everything is what we call merely labeled by the mind. Merely labeled by the mind. Labeled. Or we can say also merely designated. A dependent designation. Okay? So, for something to exist, 3 things need to come. 3 things need to be there. We have what we call the basis of designation, which in this case is those 3 lines. The 3 lines. We have the label, the label, the A, and then we have a mind that affixes the label to the basis of designation. You guys understand? So, you see, before we learn the alphabet, the Roman alphabet, then, we saw those 3 lines, but we didn't see the A. Right? There's no A for us. Why not? Because we hadn't affixed the label to the base. You understand? So this is actually the proof that the A is just, and this is why we say, merely labeled by the mind. It's merely labeled by the mind. Okay? There's no inherent existing A from the side of those 3 lines. Because if there was an A existing from the side of the 3 lines, means independently, objectively, that anyone who sees those 3 lines would see an A. But that doesn't happen. It only has that appearance after we learn the label, after we learn the name A. Make sense? Mm. So now, ah,
Yeah, for us it's ah.
yes,
It's our label.
yes. So, although that's the case, right, after we learn the label, then it no longer, we kind of forget this process of having to, label or designate to the A to that. Actually, if we were now, like I noticed this when I was learning the Tibetan alphabet, right? There's 30 characters, and when you're learning like a new alphabet later, then although you might learn it, then it still is a bit like, oh, which one is this? You can get a little bit confused. But after a certain point, it becomes very natural that you then just, you have the immediacy of A from the side of the object, from the side of the lines on the page. Okay? Yes? So, what this is going to say is, you see, everything actually is like that.